Welcome to From Caving In to Crushing It, the podcast for those who find themselves immersed in adversity and choose to write their story instead of having others write it for them. I'm Drew Durrani, and I'm your host. Mitchell, good to see you.
Good to see you as well, brother. Looking forward to having this conversation today.
So am I. So folks, poor Mitchell's getting over being sick. And I don't edit this. You guys know I don't edit the podcast. So if you hear some coughing or pausing, the poor guy's he's healing. He's healing. And I do wish him well, even though he's wearing a Yankees hat, since I'm a Met fan. But in any event, we'll put that aside and we'll get into it. So I always thank the person who introduced me to my guest and Mitchell. I think it was Jessica, your VA. She was able to find us and
Yeah,
thought you'd be a good fit, and Jessica was right. Is it Jessica Velarde?
yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jessica Velarde, for finding us and bringing Mitchell into my life. I appreciate that. I always talk about how when we're young, we're taught that life is linear. We're told that if we do A plus B plus C, D is going to happen. And for the most part, life is linear until it's not. Ultimately, there's an external circumstance that gets in the way of one of those letters and kind of derails our straight path in life to a more circuitous one. And this has happened to me, it's happened to Mitchell. Now, when that happens, that's when adversity rears its ugly head, and we have a choice. Do we take adversity on and confront it, or do we walk away? Now, I always say there's three types of men out there. Now, man number one, he's got so many blind spots, he doesn't even notice that adversity. He's just going through life based on what people tell him to do, and he's on autopilot. And on it, and when he goes through life, he doesn't change a darn thing. So I don't have man number one on the show. Then you have man number two. Man number two notices the adversity. He's got a heightened self awareness, yet he says, "Nah, I'm the victim. Life is doing this to me. That adversity is a barrier. I can't change anything. It is what it is." So he again goes through life without changing anything, and on his deathbed, he's got a ton of regrets. And I don't have man number two on the show either. I have man number three on the show, and that's Mitchell. Man number three sees the adversity and he says, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. That adversity is not a barrier. That's an opportunity for me to do something different, take massive action, and become a stronger man on the other side. So, with that, man number three, Mitchell, reach back as far as you need to for that defining moment in life, whether it was the tap on the shoulder, the whisper in the ear, or like I
Hmm.
needed the two by four upside my head,
Hmm.
that transformed you from either man number one or man number two to the man you are now.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's a great place to begin because I think everyone has that. A lot of people have that. Like you said, the people who have that turning point. It's often memorable for us, and for me, Drew, there were two really key points.
Mhm.
The first one was a fight, and the second one was a funeral.
Wow.
And so the first one, if you and your listeners can picture with me, me and my wife were sitting on the couch in our living room, and it all hit the fan. We got into a huge fight, and we had been married for about 3 years at this point. And this fight, there was something different about it. I knew deep down, um, if we didn't change things, that I was about to lose my marriage. We had been married, like I said, for about 3 years. It was a struggle, man. We first 3 years were very, very hard, and I remember days where I would park in the driveway and just praying for the strength, to go in the house because I had no idea what was waiting on the other side, the fight, the tension, you name it.
Right.
So extreme point of tension in this moment, and we had a big fight. I think it started about money, and then it morphed
Mhm.
into something else, and you know, but for me to give you some context, leading up to that moment, I'd always been in leadership positions, and very recently, I had been let go of a senior position of leadership in my job, and so I spiraled into depression. Drew,
Mhm.
I was 60 pounds overweight. We were 100 grand in debt. I was medicating with alcohol and drugs, just coping with sort of the pain that I was going through at home.
Right. Mm,
and a lot of other things that I hadn't dealt with. And so essentially, I was wrestling because I was in this place of asking myself, why was it that I could see so much success professionally, but struggle so much personally? Why was it that I was powerful at work, but powerless when I came home? And I felt like I was two different men trapped in the same body at
mm,
times.
mm.
And and I'll never forget that day. My wife said, "You go to work and you give everyone the Mitchell buffet, and you come home and you give me the scraps that are left over, and I'm tired
Wow.
of it, right?" And so we went through a very difficult phase. At the next point of my story was 7 days after that. So I get invited to sing at the funeral of this philanthropist, very wealthy man, very well known in the city. There's about 2,000 people there, and I'm coming into this funeral with still marriage hanging on by a thread, half hungover, you name it. And I'm strapping on my guitar as I'm getting ready to sing the last song, and the minister asked the people in the room. He said, "Are you living a life worthy of imitation?" And he was referencing this man. Of course, talked about all the things that he's done and all the money he's given away and the people he's helped. He said, "If you were to die today, would you be proud of the legacy that you left?" And Drew,
Wow.
I couldn't I could barely choke at the lyrics to the last song because all I could think was, excuse me, all I could think in that moment was, if this were my funeral, nobody would be saying he inspired me to have a better marriage, or he
Mm,
inspired me to get into shape, or he inspired me to get my finances in order. He inspired me to be a better man. They probably would have said at that point, he had a tough life and he struggled a lot, and then it was over, you know. And so for me, and to back it up even more, the reason why I was wrestling so much is because, a part of it was I came from a very dysfunctional upbringing. I had a non-existent relationship with my father. He was an alcoholic. Drugs, crime were littered throughout my family growing up.
yeah.
It was very regular occurrence to have the cops at our door or in our house and sitting on our couch. And Yeah, it was a tough childhood. And so what happened was I didn't heal from all those wounds.
Right.
And when I got married, it began to bleed out into my marriage and into my relationship. And I remember I would yell at my wife, and I could hear my dad's voice in mine. I
Oh,
could
wow.
hear his words, it's like I couldn't change it. And so I had this moment at this funeral, and where I was faced, with the trajectory that I was on,
Right.
and I had this vision of what could be in 5 years, or and then what would be if I didn't change in five
Mm,
years.
mm.
Alone, depressed, overweight, alcoholic, just like my father was, and his father was, and his
Wow.
father was.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so I decided that day, Drew, to take ownership, man, of everything. My marriage, my finances, my health, my
Hmm.
fitness, my spirituality, you name it. And I surrounded myself with men who could hold me to this new standard that I wanted to set for myself. Men who, my ceiling was their floor. They
Wow.
lived where I wanted to go,
I see.
and these men held me accountable. And and so I started making those decisions. And within 18 months, I lost the 60 pounds,
That's
um,
great.
paid off $100,000 worth of debt, completely restored our marriage, was completely sober and clean of
Wow.
distractions and all those different things. And that was for me the big turning point, brother.
When you say 18 months, what was the first step you took when you realized you had to do something? What was the first step you took when you left that funeral and went home?
I made a list.
Okay.
I made a list of all of the areas I wanted to grow
Okay.
in my life. And I thought to myself, what the big one was marriage, of course,
Right.
fitness, finances, and then in my overall emotional health.
Hmm.
And I said, who in my life has the best marriage that I know of? Who's
Hmm.
in the best shape that I know of?
Hmm.
Who is the most money that I know? Who seems to be the most confident man that I've ever met?
Hmm.
And I'm just going to reach out to these guys and say, hey, would you be willing to mentor me? Walk alongside. Like, could we meet once a month or once every couple
Wow.
months? Grab a beer, grab a coffee, whatever. It's on me.
Sure.
But hey, I want to grow in this area, and you were clearly successful
Right.
in this area. And so, would you be willing to just talk with me about how you've managed to do this?
Right.
It was a powerful concept,
Wow. It is.
and those men became my mentors. So powerful that I ended up creating a framework around this called the Iron Five, and my clients all have their own Iron Five. It's their
Iron
men who
five.
stand with them
I gotta write that
and
down.
hold them high through the challenges. And so, and I'd be happy to walk through that with you a little bit later in the show if you want. But
Hmm.
that was the first step, and then they helped me set goals. They held me high because I wanted to self sabotage constantly because my
Right.
life was filled with these limiting self beliefs and
Sure.
the imposter syndrome. And there are so many things that, um, so many times I wanted to fall down and just stay down, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And these men held me to that standard that I said I wanted for me and my family. And that's how I was able to do it so quickly. And then after that, again, because I've been in positions of leadership, a lot of people noticed the new body or the new energy, the new confidence, and started
Right.
asking questions. Right, man, what did you do? Excuse me. And so I just started helping buddies of mine, building
Right.
budgets, helping them connect with their wives, helping them lose the weight, giving them nutrition plans. Until a friend of mine challenged me, one of my mentors, one of my Iron Five, and he said, "Man, if you really want to live a life worthy of imitation, if you really want to turn this trash into treasure and make an impact, you need to start a podcast and share this with the world." And so I launched the Dad Nation podcast. And within 6 months, it was globally rated top 10% podcast. And I had listeners all around North America. And then they would reach out and ask. A lot of these broken and hurting men would say, "Hey, your story inspired me. Could you help me?" And that's how I started the coaching.
Wow.
And within 6 months after launching the podcast, I launched my coaching practice. And that's what I do is I help high performing men reclaim their home, their health, and their happiness. Ed Milet says this often that you are the most qualified to help the person you used to be. And for
Mm.
me, at the end of the day, that's all I do is I take the men who are just a couple steps behind me and I teach them how to take the next steps to see success in whatever area that is, whether it's their
Right.
marriage, their finances, their fitness, you name it. So
That's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. So, what I want to go into the marriage piece. You went home from that funeral. Did you talk to your wife to let her know the epiphany you had, and did she believe you?
um, I'd like to say I went home with some grand vision and I said it and she was like, "I believe you. This is beautiful," and it was
Yeah.
perfect. No,
Okay.
no, I went home and I said I know I needed to be different. I haven't shown up the way I need to.
Hmm.
I haven't dealt with my past and I brought it into our present. And you've had to pay for mistakes I've made. You've had to, a lot of different things.
Hmm.
And so there was certainly an apology and a commitment to change.
Hmm.
And she said, "Yeah, I really hope that you stick to it this time. I'm really rooting for you." But she didn't believe me because words are words, right?
Right.
And
Yeah. Actions. Yeah.
words, I gave her all the right words. I
Hmm.
mean, I've always been in leadership. I understand the script. I understand how to
Yeah.
string together the right combination of
Yeah.
words to win people over. She saw through that. So I said, "Would you give me 6 months? Give me 6 months, and I'm going to do the work, and then let's have a conversation." And then so that's what that's what started it.
For you.
It was a commitment, and I told her, I'm like, I have to die to the man I used to be to become this new version for you. And that means there are relationships I need to, put on the back burner. That means there are narratives that I need to kill. That means, there are new friendships I need to form, new circles I need to get involved in,
Hmm.
professional help I need to hire. And as long as you're willing to stand with me through that, I'm all in. So, yeah, she held on tight, and
Love it.
we turned it around. So
And we're still going strong now.
we're still going strong now.
Good for you, man. Good for you. All right, I want to touch on the Iron Five. I want to touch on how you were able to get the podcast ranking so quickly, so fast. Was it just the content, your mission? Let's start with the podcast, and then I want to get dive deep into the Iron Five. You started the podcast before your coaching, and you had men on. What did you do in that podcast uniquely that listeners were thirsting for more?
Yeah, well, I think I hit on a touch, like a sensitive point for a lot of men.
Hmm.
Um, and that's, certainly a niche here where um, a lot of podcasts are about general things.
Right.
Mine was very specific. If you are a married man who's a father, who's wrestling in these different areas,
Hmm.
you want to reclaim your home, your health, your happiness, like if you want to dial in your fitness, your marriage, your confidence, whatever. Um, and if you've been successful professionally, whatever that looks like, you're career
Hmm.
driven.
Hmm.
And so I created a very specific man, the man that I was actually, and I wrote him out. And every single episode I speak to that man. And
Okay.
if you listen to my podcast, you'll often hear me say, "Hey friend, listen," or "Hey brother." I'm always referencing one person because I'm actually speaking to that past version of me,
Of course.
or I'm speaking to that person who is me today. And what I do, well, at least I've got a lot of feedback from men who have said, "You give me language for things that I've been struggling with that I didn't have
Mm.
language for."
Mm.
Right? I didn't know how to articulate that until I heard you say it. And then it gave me the language to be able to have this conversation with my wife. Because here's the thing, there's something called normative male alexithymia, right? Which is a bit of a mouthful, but it's a term that psychologists have coined to explain this phenomenon that happens where men really struggle with communicating how they feel.
Right.
It actually, from the Greek, alexithymia means a lack of words to express emotion, I believe.
Yep. Yep.
And so the challenge is so many men, when they're pressed to talk about how they feel, or, wives say that all the time. My wife used to say that to me all the, I feel like I married a robot. Why don't you ever talk to me? Or she
Interesting.
would ask me, how was your day?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I would continue to tell her about all the things that I did.
Right. Right.
And she would say, "You're not telling me how you're doing. You're telling me what you're doing.
Right.
How are you doing?" And I'd be
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
I'm fine.
I'm
I'm
fine. There
good.
we go. There's our standard answer. I'm fine. I
I'm
love
fine.
it.
I'm good. It's fine. Yeah. Or we got like three or four core emotions, right?
Yep.
And so universally, men struggle across the world with this.
Right.
And so when we can have conversations about emotional intelligence, and I can equip men on how to understand their emotions and learn how to talk about them,
Right.
or how to talk about something they're wrestling with, or they're anxious about, or they're fearful of,
Yeah.
and give them the courage to say that in the language, then they can have that conversation with their wife. And guess what? When they do that, it's not met with a, "Oh, you're weak," because we don't talk about these things because we're afraid
Right.
that our wives will either think we're weak or they're going to weaponize it.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
The first time I did this, when I told my wife that I was anxious about something and I was
Oh.
afraid about something,
Yeah.
it took me the whole afternoon to get up the courage to say it.
Okay.
And she was like, "I've never felt closer to you." She's like,
Wow.
"Thank you. Thank you so much for just communicating how you feel, because it actually makes me more comfortable, because now I know that you have feelings too. You have fears too. And now I can trust you with mine even more."
That's
And I was,
huge too,
mhm.
because what you thought the reaction was going to be wasn't even close to what ended up being. So, and
I
that's
thought it
usually
would,
what happens.
yeah, I thought it would make me come off as like less of a man.
Right. Right.
Or she would think, "Can I trust him? Because maybe he's not that strong," or
Mm.
whatever. And it was the complete opposite. And this is what
Opposite.
happens all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think, I answered your question in a very long roundabout way,
No, that's good.
but the success, and actually just I found out a couple of weeks ago now, it's top point, or 5% podcast in the world, which is awesome. So,
It is.
but I think it's because of that. I'm giving
Mm.
men language. I'm speaking to pain that they haven't been able to articulate. and
No,
I've
it's a
given them
good point.
tools and resources on how to
Yeah, no, that's a
fix
good
it.
point because men to feel confident, they have to know really, I'm not going to say know the script, but they're going to need to know the content. And we're not taught to speak our emotions, so it's a foreign language to us. So if you can't speak the language, of course you're going to be going back and forth about how am I going to do this. So you give them the language, and that's like you give. I'm going to assume you're giving them language that women can understand.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, that they can understand and the women can understand because if we don't, what
Mm-hmm.
happens is they bottle it up and bottle it up and bottle it
Yep.
up.
Yeah.
And then what happens? They snap. They either blow up or they shut down.
Mm-hmm.
It's one
Mm-hmm.
or the other.
Yeah.
And both are not good recipes in your marriage.
No.
And both contribute to that narrative that already exists that men don't know how to talk about their feelings, or the
Right.
toxic masculinity script that says men are just angry and
Of
they're
course. Yep.
violent or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, no, no. We don't necessarily have the tools and skills that we need. And
That's
that's at
it.
the end of the day
That's it.
what we do, man. So,
That's it. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a firm believer that we know it's proven scientifically that men and women think differently,
yeah.
and it behooves each gender to understand the thinking language of the opposite gender so we can communicate better. And if we communicate better, the relationship's going to be stronger. And
Yeah.
ideally, we'll have strong men together with strong women. So I love the whole dialogue. All right, let's dive into the Iron Five. I want to hear how you approach that in your coaching because I think that's what the audience is going to want to hear. Because we do need to surround ourselves with strong people who are experts in whatever we want to improve in. And a lot of we men will go to a mentor who hasn't succeeded in the area we want to succeed in, and we're asking them for advice. So I want to hear about the Iron Five.
Yeah, no, no, it's good. I'll walk you through it. And you're right, man. We go to the wrong places usually. We go to places where we go to guys who we're comfortable with, guys we've known for 20 years, guys
Right.
it's the high school buddies.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert, they're not usually the people that are going to help you get to the next level. They're
Exactly.
in fact sometimes the reason why you are where you are,
Mm-hmm.
because we've heard that old adage, you the combination of the top five people you spend the most time
Right.
with.
Exactly.
And so if your inputs are the same, but
Mm-hmm.
you want to change the output, but you don't change the inputs, you can't expect anything different. And
Right.
so
Right. Right.
the challenge in this is like, no, these people can't be people that you've been living in close quarters with over the last, 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be people who are inspiring to you, people who you respect, who you admire, and that are courageous and will call you up, right? So um, that's the idea. So the Iron Five, really, what it is, and it's all five are P's because I'm obsessed with alliteration, but it helps me remember,
That's
right?
a good.
So
No, I like it. It is easier to remember. So go ahead. Let's hear
number
it.
one is the partner. Okay,
Okay.
so this is the guy that walks beside you. This is the
Okay.
guy who's in the battle with you. He knows your wins. He knows your wounds. Right. You don't have to wear a mask with him. You can
Mhm.
be fully seen, fully known. Right.
Okay.
So the partner. Number two is the protector.
Okay.
This is the guy who watches your blind spots. This is the guy who sees what you miss. This is the guy who calls out your patterns, the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that might take you out if left unchecked. It's the guy who's not afraid to call you out when you yelled at your wife, yelled at your wife or whatever,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
He's not impressed by you, but he's
No.
invested in you.
Right. Got it.
The protector. Number three is the provider,
Okay.
and this is the guy who invests in your growth. He's the coach. He's the mentor. He's the people would talk about uh, spiritual fathers or like a father figure in your life or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. Someone who's down the road from you and is willing to open doors and share wisdom
Mm-hmm.
and really shorten that learning curve,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Number four is the pusher.
Okay.
This is the most complicated relationship of the five,
Mm-hmm.
because this person will require you to eat a slice of humble pie.
Mm.
This is the guy who doesn't let you coast, right? He's constantly pulling you out of your comfort zone.
Okay.
He's the guy who's reminding you of who you said you wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so he demands your best. The pusher
Right.
demands your best, and you need one of those in your life.
Sure.
And the fifth one is the pioneer.
Mm.
And this is the guy who shows you what's possible.
Mm.
Now, this is more of a, you can think about it if you have business goals, financial goals,
Right.
whatever that could be. He's the guy that shows you what's possible.
Right.
He's living the life that you're aiming for. His example expands your vision of what you think is possible for yourself, right? So his wins remind you that your current ceiling is someone else's starting floor, like I mentioned earlier. So those are the five: the partner, the protector, the provider, the pusher, and the pioneer.
The
Excuse me.
partner, the protector, the provider, the pusher, and the pioneer. I love it. Absolutely amazing. I love that. Absolutely amazing. Oh, let me see. Well, I'm going to say that the audience certainly has captured the essence of Mitchell Osmond, and they're going to want to get more of you. So, folks, go to dadnationco.com. And before we recorded, you had told me you have a gift for the audience that they find on their web on your website. You want to go into that?
Yeah, sure. And it's great, because we actually talked a little bit about this, but we talked in this conversation about how we struggle to connect on an emotional level.
Mhm.
And I was reading through some statistics, and a lot of my clients were men who their marriages weren't going well. And I read that 70% in the US today, up to 70% of divorces in the US are initiated by the wife in the
Right.
relationship.
Mhm.
But now what's interesting is in situations where the wife is has a high education or is a high earner, that number actually jumps to 90%. So 9 out of every 10
Mhm.
divorces
Mhm.
are initiated by women in those specific situations. Now, what does it tell us? It tells us that, and the second piece to this is 80% of the time, the main reason cited for the divorce is not cheating, is not money, is not abuse. It's a lack of emotional connection, is
Yep.
feeling like roommates, is
Yep.
my husband doesn't talk to me.
Yeah.
And so I created something called the connection code, which is simply 50 questions to spark the fun and get the fire back.
I
It's
love it.
legitimately 50 questions that are served to you on a platter, a
Mhm.
PDF platter, and you can download it, and it covers all the different kinds of life, like your dreams, your desires. We get into passion, intimacy, you name it. And so the only rule is I tell guys, like, you know what, you go out on a date, or you might want to just put the kids down and pour up a glass of wine,
Yep.
but just take 2 or 3 questions off this list and ask them to her, and I guarantee you're going
Ah,
to see her unravel in
okay.
and I get women who have emailed me saying, who was that man who took me out last night? Because the questions he was asking me,
I
they were
love
just
it.
blown away.
So,
um
okay, so
yeah,
it's questions that you suggest we as men ask our significant other.
exactly, they're conversation starters.
Conversation starters. I love that.
Yeah, and they're designed to sort of help you and your wife sort of unravel and get
Hmm.
out of that work mode or parent mode
Right.
and go into husband wife mode, because
Got it.
that's another big problem is we go out on a date night, and our date nights end up feeling like staff meetings or board meetings,
Yeah, right, right.
right? Because you
What's
end
the
up talking
stuff we
about
need to
the
get done?
agenda,
Yeah.
the kids, the drop offs,
Hmm.
the budget, all the
Yep.
sports, you name it.
Yep.
Um, and so it's no different than any other meeting. And so
Right.
these questions help turn the tide a little bit and bring you back to that state of, because your wife or your partner,
Right.
was a woman or a bride before she was a mother.
Very true.
And
Very
what
good point.
happens is women forget that they were once a bride. They forget their femininity. They forget
Mm,
that they were a desired woman at one point, because they're wearing the mom hat for so long. And so
interesting.
when we go out on date nights, these questions help get you guys back into that place of husband and wife again.
You're helping men understand their role, or part of their role is to
Exactly.
remind their wife or significant other what they were before the busy life got in the way. And so we can be reminders there. Remember, do you have a P for that?
I don't. But you
We got
know
a
what?
P for the reminder. I love
Um,
it.
so yeah, if you go to my website, dadnationco.com/code,
Yeah,
where I'll give you the link as well. You can put it in the show notes. But yeah, it's right on the front
good.
page.
Guys, take
And
advantage of that. Download that free PDF. Thanks for that offer. That's an awesome offer.
of course.
Anything else you want to tell the audience before we launch into the final two questions I have for you?
No, I don't think so. I think we've had a
All
great
right.
conversation.
All right. Here come the questions. All right. Now you're sitting in your happy place and you're sitting down with 7 to 10-year-old Mitchell and you're ready to give him some advice about life. What are you going to tell young Mitchell?
Mm. Um, I would say you already have everything you need to become the man you need to be. You are enough. Um, I never heard that as a child. I never heard that I was enough. And as I began to study psychology and
Yep.
boys, specifically boys, all young boys are asking that question.
Mm-hmm.
Am I enough?
Am I
Do
enough?
I have what it takes
Mm-hmm.
to one day do what daddy does? And and what happens is a lot of men, a lot of fathers don't answer that question for their
No,
boys,
good point.
and they grow up still asking that question. And
Mm.
I was a grown man, married for 3 years, still asking that question
Mm-hmm.
in the workplace. And when I come home to my wife, am I enough? Do I have what it takes? Am I enough? And every time I was met with a challenge, that narrative was fed, the lie that I'm not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that resulted in rage, that resulted in turning to substances to numb the pain, right? And so that's
Right.
what I would say to 7-year-old Mitch.
Great advice. We know young Mitch wouldn't take that advice because we don't listen to our older self.
Yeah.
But we hope he would. All right, so let's switch hats here. And now you're sitting down with young entrepreneur, young businessman Mitch, and you want to give him advice about business. What are you going to tell him?
Yeah. I would say keep going. Keep going. Adversity doesn't mean you're doing something wrong,
Mhm.
right? In fact, it usually means you're doing something right,
Absolutely.
right? Steve Jobs said one time that at the end of the day, business is just a game of attrition,
Hmm.
meaning that whoever can stay in the game longest wins. You would be interested in this statistic, but in the podcasting world, this is a wild statistic. But we know that I read a little while ago that 90% of podcasts that start don't make it past 3 episodes.
Hmm.
And then of the podcasts that make it past 3 episodes, 90% of those don't make it uh, to past 20 episodes.
No kidding. Okay.
So if you are, past 20 episodes, you are like the 1% or the 10% of the 10%,
There we
basically.
go. There we go.
So it's, but that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to, in business and whatever endeavor you're doing, you just have to keep going.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Very good advice. Let's hope young Mitch takes that advice.
Yeah.
Well, Mitch, I want to thank you for coming into my life and at minimum coming onto the show. We're going to continue to have a relationship, my friend. You are doing wonderful things for men and keep doing what you're doing. You're a wonderful human being. And I'm grateful for the fact that you turned into man number 3
Mm,
because what a shame if you stuck in man number 1 or man number 2.
yeah.
So that's awesome, man. Anyway, thanks again for being who you are.
Thank you for having me on the show today, Drew. It's been an honor and a privilege, my friend, and I'm
Yeah,
glad to be here.
thank you. Everybody out there, please take care of yourselves. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and give us a review to help others find it. I'd like you to answer this question. Are you living the life you want to live, or are you living the life others want you to live? I'd like you to think about that for a second, because I strongly suggest you live the life you want to live. If you want to learn more about what I stand for and my services and how I'm able to help many men get out of their own way, please go to my website at www.profitcompassion.com. Feel free to also email me at drew@profitcompassion.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Take care of yourself and choose to write your own story instead of letting others write it for you.